sometimes I wake up and go, what the hell is going on here? Like, and then, I clear my mind, and, I'm lucky that, I exercise quite a lot, and, that helps me a lot. And I just go, look, you just got to keep going and keep pushing, and, we're in the mix with everyone else.
This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Few cuisines have had more influence on the way we eat than Italian. Italian immigrants came en masse with a coffee machine under one arm and a pasta maker under the other during the 50s. Spaghetti bolognese is not a dish you'll find in Italy per se, but many suggest it's our national dish. For many, the global pandemic has had its challenges in Australia, and for those with Italian heritage, it's been devastating to watch from afar, with cases skyrocketing in their homeland, Italy. Giovanni Pilu is a co-owner of award-winning restaurant Pilu at Freshwater. Giovanni, you're originally from Sardinia, but you call Australia home now. What's it been like this last couple of months with friends and family back in Italy?
It's been different. Yeah, it's been very different, I guess. I don't know, like, what other term can I use, to be honest? Because, it's something that we weren't expecting, and no one was. And, if you would have told me 6 months ago that all this was going to happen, I would have said, oh, are you crazy or something? What are you talking about, But, here we are 6 months down the track, and, we're still up and running, which is good. Back home in Sardinia, that one of the lucky things is, that I'm from Sardinia, so all my relatives live there, and, being an island, I guess it's a little bit more protected, although they've had, some cases, because the beginning of, all this, when this happened, like back in March, a lot of people from the north of Italy escaped to Sardinia to the holiday houses. So they brought the virus with them. Yeah, so it was a little bit challenging to start with, and then I think they got it under control quite quickly, and it's been okay. It's been okay. Yeah.
And you have your parents there, and also your sister's a doctor over there as well. It's been
Yes, my parents, my brother, are there, and my sister is a doctor, so. She was, front line. I mean, she's a psychiatrist, but she had, a lot to do, like her hands full, that's for sure. And the good thing was that she really helped out my parents, when they had to stay home, locked up. So like at the beginning, they couldn't even go out, like, even to go shopping or that. It wasn't easy to go and do groceries and that. So she could do that for them because, she was allowed to drive around with a permit. So that was good, and she kept them, under control, which was good. But they live in a very small village. Like literally, Anthony, there is 300 people in this village, and the closest neighbor is like 200 meters away, and then there is another 200 meters, and then the village is actually 500 meters from where they are. So they couldn't have been any more isolated. Do you know what I mean? They didn't have to change much in what's normally it is for them, their day-to-day life. So it wasn't bad for them, the only thing was my brother couldn't go for a drive every day for the daily coffee and catch up with his mates, because my brother's got cerebral palsy, so my mother drives him to the next village for coffee and that every day. So he wasn't happy to be stuck at home. But look, apart from that, it's been okay. Yeah.
How does a young guy that loves surfing end up leaving Sardinia and creating one of the most famous restaurants in Australia?
Well, this was, in 92 I came here, so that's ages ago, bloody thing. Now, time is flying away. It was pretty amazing when I met Marilyn in Sardinia, and she said to me, I come from Australia, and I'll tell you background, but I come from Australia. It took me about half an hour to think and understand where Australia was, especially when, she used to say to me, it takes over 20 hours flight to get to Australia. And I kept saying, and I kept just racking my brain. I'm going, it takes about 9 hours from Sardinia to Rome in the ferry, and now it's a 20-hour flight. I couldn't get my head around it. It took me a while to get because coming from an island and from a small village, and I wasn't one of the best at school. I didn't comprehend how far away Australia was, but the time that I made the decision to come here, I think it was the luckiest day of my life, to be honest, because coming to Australia has been a real turnaround for me. Literally upside down, my life went, and never looked back since, and it's been amazing. So yeah, and then lucky we landed. I landed in the North Shore. Back then we used to live in Terry Hills, and then moved to Freshwater, and then ended up working in Freshwater now. So it's been pretty amazing journey for me.
You're regarded as one of Australia's best chefs. How did it all start for you, chefing?
That's a big call, Anthony. That's a big call. Look,
personal opinion,
mates. Thank you, but yeah, I mean there is a lot of my colleagues. There's so many great chefs out there. Australia's amazing culinary scene. It's been it just grown so much. Look, I started from scratch, because as everyone does, and I fell in love, with our industry, with cooking, and with anything to do with hospitality. And when I came to Australia, I persevered and went to TAFE, did all the right things, and took all the right steps. I needed to learn English, so going to an English school in Brookvale with 20 Italians in the class didn't help me. So and playing soccer with them, so I wasn't learning much English. But then I decided to join TAFE, and that was really good actually. Like one of the best things I've done is to go to TAFE, because not only to learn more of the cooking skills and that, but also I think the English picked up quite quickly. I met great people at TAFE, including my head teacher Peter Barnsley, that we're still really good mates. From '94 that we've known each other, and he's been an amazing mentor for me, and he helped me out so much, especially in the beginning. And then it was been an incredible journey. So for me then to become who I am now, which I still classify myself as a cook, because that's what I do for living. I love cooking. My role has changed a little bit over the years, because we do employ a lot of staff, and we've got now 3 venues on the run, and so my role is slightly changed. Even if lately I've gone back more into the kitchen, and I'm cooking a little bit more, which I absolutely love. But yeah, look, it is. Sometimes I think back and I go, wow, I have done a lot, here, and but nothing comes from nothing. I met great people along the way that helped me a lot. My old boss Peter Vignaska, the first restaurant that I worked in Terry Hills, and obviously I couldn't do what I do, or I couldn't have been what I am now without the help of Marilyn, my wife, a business partner for nearly 20 years. So yeah, without her, probably I wouldn't be here talking to you right now, to be honest.
Well, you have 3 amazing venues, and Pilu is, I can't even recall Pilu not having 2 hats. It's an extraordinary restaurant on the water there. What was the impact on your venues when, that first shutdown happened in March?
It happened really quickly, because I don't know if you remember, but within a week, things have changed so quickly, like really, really fast. We went from reduced numbers, and then everything started coming really fast at us, and we had to react really quickly. So within a week, probably that was one of the hardest things we've done in all these years that we've been in business, to be honest. The change that we had to do to stay open, and we quickly had to come up with a takeaway menu, new systems, like all the stuff that we had to do, like within a week, just to stay afloat and stay open. Because the last thing we wanted to do, Anthony, was close, because we know that closing a restaurant or reopening a restaurant, it's very challenging. No matter what, like you got to start from scratch, and that's always a hard gig. And we didn't want to, obviously lose some of our key staff, and some of the guys that we had, we still have under working holiday visas. They couldn't get back overseas. Some of them went back quickly. A couple of French guys we had, they jumped on the plane and left straight away. But some of them stayed here. One, especially, a couple of them, they're from Milan, so they didn't want to go back to north of Italy because, things there were really, really, going crazy. And so we wanted to stay open, basically, to keep, some of the staff. And then that was a massive job, within a week. But, we do have such an amazing team. And, over the years, we built up an incredible core team that, all together, we made it happen. And after a week or two, we were literally up and running. And being where we are, to be where we are, it's been lucky for us in a way, because being a suburban restaurant rather than a city restaurant, which I felt really for them, because a lot of city places had to shut because the city emptied. We were lucky because, after 15 years, the community around where we are, Freshwater, all the surrounding Y, Kilkil, Brookvale, all around Alambi, like they really supported us. Like, they wanted to come and buy the takeaway, and we quickly became quite busy, actually. And then, things got better because obviously, like I said, we got a great team. We got used to it. So, but it was literally a reopening of a new venue. It was incredible. So, then we started having actually a little bit of fun as well, because we were doing something so different. It was more like, simpler food than, fine dining, but still, tasty. And, we were still buying good produce, and it was great, in a way. Then it became actually something that we it was something different, So, when you do something different, you get excited, and, you want to do it well, and all that kind of stuff. So, it worked well for us after the initial, bit that it was quite challenging. And then, obviously, slowly we started reopening again, and now it's okay. Yeah, it's okay.
What were some of the most popular dishes during that takeaway time that you wouldn't have normally done in the restaurant?
Well, I can tell you what it is, because it really put a mark on me, because I was the lasagna boy, and making so many lasagnas in all those trays. And I actually developed a bit of a tendonitis in my elbow because I was lifting all the I know it absolutely put me under pressure. So I was lifting these trays in and out of the oven, like, day in, day out. And it was so busy. Like, we were selling, 80, 90, 100 lasagnas a week. So, I've still got this what they call tennis elbow that I'm curing now because a result of that. But it was so crazy. Like the lasagna, we could not keep up with it. We had to eventually put, like we had to get people to book it in, especially weekends, because then we knew how many we needed to prepare, because we just could not keep up. And then people, were getting a bit disappointed when we ran out. And, but that was an incredible dish. Like, I never thought that such a simple, straightforward. For me, like, I grew up having lasagna as a family because, coming from a biggish family, lasagna was, in the middle of the table, easy to share, and that it became crazy. So, yeah, that was definitely the most popular one.
They might have to rename it Lasagna Elbow.
The lasagna elbow. I know. They started, making jokes and go, the Giovanni lasagna, or, like all this kind of stuff that, and then there were, not only that, but all the dishes that we did were, obviously a little bit more upmarket, because I think people expected a little bit more than, two heads, although it was tucked away. So we did really good dishes, and we did also the suckling pig. We kept it on. And you know what? I must say this. We couldn't have done the pig unless our supplier, our farmer, Matt from Melana Park, which you may have heard of. They were really, really good, because we said, Matt, if you like, because we're not charging as much as, obviously, when like on the menu, it was a takeaway item. So I said, mate, if you can help out, we'll work all together here. We can use a lot more pigs, and they dropped the price. And as a team, we with our suppliers, we could offer premium product even for the takeaway menu, and that was really really cool because people really loved it. Because the suckling pig, it's one of our most popular dishes. So that if to have that on our takeaway was amazing. But like I said, we couldn't have done it unless Matt and Sue came on board, and they dropped the price a little bit, and then we could do that as well. So that was popular as well.
A little earlier, you mentioned how important the local support was during that period you were doing takeaway. What's it been like since reopening? And you still have some restrictions, but are you presenting something different to the market? And how has the support been?
Look, in all honesty, the thing that we learned and we did was that we wanted to kind of in a way get back to do a little bit simpler food, still like amazing quality, obviously, so much Australian produce as much as we can, seasonal, all that kind of stuff. That has never changed. But just simplifying a little bit the dishes that we did, because I think, fine dining sometimes, things that, you try to complicate your life too much, which we realized that probably we didn't need to. So we brought some dishes back. For instance, instead of having, 8 components in a dish, we went down to 5, and, instead of having 3 purees, we got 1, or, all these kind of things that we kind of brought back a little bit, did a little bit more rustic, because it was always Pilu Freshwater, with a Sardinian influence, a little bit more, coming back to that. But the community supported us so much. Like I said, we were so lucky that we are in Freshwater, and like I said, it's a suburban restaurant that has been, like really amazing. And then, so when we came back, when we started coming back, you remember how they let us do, that we did 10 covers to start with, and that was, so we said, okay, well, that's the other thing that we got out of this, that we came up with what we called an esclusivo menu for those 10 people, because it was only 10, and we said, well, let's give people a great experience. We guaranteed for the first time in 15 years a window table to everyone because it was only 10 people, so we could have everyone on the veranda. So we said, okay, guaranteed window table, 7-course esclusivo menu with premium Sardinia wines. This is like buy a ticket, and then it went nuts. Like we could not keep up with it. We were fully booked for those 10, like days in advance, and so we kept now that on, we're doing that on Saturdays, only exclusive on Saturday, because we think, the Saturday it's a special day, and, like it's the first day of the weekend, and people can have, a great lunch or a dinner. So we, still we're doing that now, and it's been so popular. So, good things came out of this, and that was one of them, that we wanted to give people, an amazing experience with this esclusivo menu, and it's been going, amazingly well. So, yeah, I mean, there is a saying in Italian, non tutti i mali vengono per nuocere. Not all bad things come to hurt you, and I believe in that,
A little earlier, you mentioned how Sardinia was protected somewhat from the virus because it is an island. We understand Italian cuisine, but it's different all over Italy, and the cuisine is quite different from the north to the south. But could you tell us a bit about Sardinian cuisine and what makes that stand out?
It is an island, so and you said it right. That if you were to break down Italian food, let's say into 4 parts to make it easy, because if you start getting deep into regional cooking and and all that kind of stuff, you never end. But if you say, okay, let's call, it's massive, 20 regions. So if we say the food from Italy, let's break it down from the north to the center, the south, and the islands. There is so much diversity, but the island, it's more diverse because, the islands were always invaded by so many different cultures that all through the island, the food changes a lot. And Sardinia, it's one of them, and I think I have been to Sicily, and it is very diverse from, the rest of Italy, but Sardinia, I think it's more because it's quite far from the mainland. It's about 350 k's off. So it's almost like a mini country on its own, because it was invaded by, the Spanish and the Catalans in the north, and the more of the Arabic influence in the south because it's so close to North Africa. And then, the Sardinians then escaped from the coast, being so dangerous, and lived in the middle of the island. So, developed this diet that is so different from what people really think that, the real, food of Sardinia, it's more seafood, where it was, in fact, more meat and bread, and, and because when you live up on the hills and in the mountains, the coast is dangerous. So no one went, to the coast fishing, and the seafood came about, which, like, it sounds like a long time ago, 100 years, but really it's not, in the scheme of where old Sardinia and Italy is. So the food is so, interesting, and, like I said, the north part of the island, the coastline. Now, obviously, there is quite a lot of seafood out there. The fish markets are amazing, but still, the strong, influence of meat, like suckling pig, and the dish like baby lamb, and goat. Great breads, lots of bread. Like bread is, because we do have an Arabic background. If you go to any house where, like a Lebanese house, I reckon you find bread on the table as soon as you walk in the door, because it's such a culture, and that's what we do. It's like if I go home now to Sardinia, there'll be bread on the table right now, because it's a sign of welcoming, and also it's something that you always keep on the table. Cheese, I always say that pecorino cheese is, the second best cheese in Italy, because I think Parmigiano Reggiano has got, the crown on top. But, pecorino, I think, is it's pretty amazing. And, in Sardinia, it's producing some incredible cheese. So, yeah, look, lots of vegetables as well. For instance, my parents now, that one of the highlight of the year for my father is planting his little vegetable garden, which he planted, in May, because he could, go out, and then, he was really worried about not being able to go out and plant his fruit and vegetables this year. And he did, as he always does. And there is so much of that, like, the Sardinians sometimes, I think, it's like there's a time of the year where they grow so much vegetables and fruit, spring, summer, that they become nearly vegetarians. Like my parents live from the garden nearly for 3 or 4 months. And then, even the other day, my father said, oh, we had all those tomatoes coming together. I gave them to everyone, all the neighbors, but then we get so many more. So I crushed them and put them in the freezer. And then, all the beans now they came, and there is a ton of eggplants we preserved. So they make the most of it. They really eat a lot of veggies as well. So, that's another big part of our diet that maybe people don't know about, where that's also, it's quite big. But yeah, look, it's very broad. Within the island, things like recipes and dishes change from village to village. Like, I remember going to back to the area of like the north part of the island. It's called Gallura. That's where they grow, Vermentino wine, and it's one of the best white wines around and all that. But there is this particular dish called zuppa gallurese, which is gallurese soup, which is made from lamb stock that you soak style bread, because bread you never throw it away, so you got to find a way of using it, and soaking it in stock brings it back, and then you put cheese and fresh mint through it, and becomes this savory baked bread soup. And I remember going to this winery, and I got to cook this dish, and I was in the heart of Gallura, so I was under pressure because I had to create the right dish, and I made it, and I thought I was so proud. It came out really well. It was really crusty, and I gave some to some of the locals, to try, because my aunties, I thought they made really good zuppa gallurese, so I used my auntie's recipe. And this lady, I remember, she got really upset with me because she goes, how dare you make this recipe, and it's not the right one, and it's all wrong, and like, where do you come from, from this area, how could you do something like that? And I said, well, I said, I thought, I could make a a good zuppa gallurese. And she goes, no, 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 no. You didn't put any tomato in. The stock is bland. It needs this and it's that, more herbs. And so, from area to area, the same dish, like is so different. And that's only like one example. There is hundreds of examples that I can come up with. But yeah, the food of Sardinia is super interesting and very diverse. Like, I'd be like the whole of Italy. If you break it down, the north part of the island, the center, the coastline, and the south, the food changes incredibly. And the bread is massive in Sardinia, and the wines now, there is so many great wines, like, there is so much to eat and discover, really.
One of your great loves is Bottarga, and I know you used to go back to Italy to buy Bottarga to bring back here in Australia, but you ended up producing it yourself and you have your own brand out there. What's the story behind that?
Yeah, that was quite a funny story, actually. I think I've said it now a lot of times, but maybe not everyone knows. So when we started bringing Bottarga in, but this is like back when Calaluna days, when we opened up the first restaurant in the like mid-90s, and Bottarga was very undiscovered in Australia, and only maybe some of the Italians knew about it, or the Greeks, because also the Greeks eat Bottarga. But I remember putting this amazing ingredient on the menu, and people had no idea what it was, So I used to import it. Actually, my mom used to send it to me in, like, I remember packets of a couple of kilos. And I always, said, this is our Bottarga, and explain to people what it was, and, teaching them like what it is and how it's made. And, the mullet in Sardinia is, from this area, cabras, and, there is no better Bottarga in the world. And, the best one is definitely the Sardinia one. So until years later, I went for I went around the island with a small group of Australians for a cooking tour, and I took him to the biggest fish market in the island in Cagliari, which is called San Benedetto, which is an incredible fish market, and Bottarga, it's one of the ingredients that you see all around the markets because it comes from, the south of the island, and they call it, the gold of Sardinia. So I was just, showing off, saying, look at this. This is the Sardinian Bottarga, everyone. It's amazing. Look at that one and that one. And this guy, Stefano, his name was, he goes, oh, are you guys Australians? He called up, I said, yeah. I mean, they're Australians. And, I picked up your accent. I love Australia. I go every year. I said, wow, every year? What do you do there? Like, I said, do you go on holidays? Oh, no, I go to Queensland because I go there and buy mallet roe to make Bottarga. And I said, what? And everyone is going, hang on a second. Is this Sardinian stuff or is this Aussie stuff? So then he came over and he said, guys, look, if anyone in Sardinia now, especially the bigger producers, like Stefano Rocca, all these guys that they produce a lot of Bottarga, they say to you that the Sardinian roe, it's enough to supply, first of all, the demand that Sardinia has, especially in summer with the tourism and that, but also the export market, which is really, really big. If they say to you that it's enough just, to have like the Sardinian roe, it's not true. It's not true at all. Like, we run out every year. There is never enough. So we started, to keep up with demand, we started importing roe and doing it, in the Sardinian way, where, the salt is to be salty and he has to have lots of minerals, the preserving of that's important, the way that you dry it and all that. But we find that the best quality roe, apart from the Sardinia one, is the Australian one. And that's when I said, well, then what's the point? Why don't I just make my own? So I went to see the guys that, this Stefano was buying the roe from in Queensland, Markwell Fisheries, Ruben, which is a great guy, and I ended up going fishing with them for mullet, and now we produce our Bottarga together with Costa, because Costa's been a friend of mine for so many years, and he understands the product, and we got the dry room like down pat with him, and we do it together. But the other great thing that we got now is that Alex Olsen created, because the salt is such an important part. There is not much to it. There is the roe, and then the salt, and then the way that you dry it and how long for and all that, which we do that. But then the salt that we cover the bottarga with for a couple of hours to preserve, it needs to be, like I said, quite salty, quite sticky, a little bit moist. It needs to have lots of minerals. And when I say to Alex, look, I'm looking for a salt to make bottarga, like, what can you do? And she said, leave it with me, we'll come up with something. And I explained to her how the Sardinian salt was, and she, obviously she's so amazing. She made, I remember she made a bunch of samples. How coarse the salt was. It needs to be fine because it sticks better. And she came up with this salt mix now that we make bottarga with it, and I'm telling you, it's like the Sardinian stuff. So here we are now. We have a great Australian product made with Australian raw, Australian salt, and it's as good as, if not better, of the Sardinian, some of the Sardinian stuff out there. So it's been an incredible journey. This, tell you.
Absolutely amazing. What a crazy story.
Yeah. I know. It's crazy. Yeah.
How are you feeling at the moment, with the restaurant? You've had Pilu for quite a while now, and it's a pretty weird climate out there, and Melbourne's in lockdown. How are you feeling about the next couple of months and year?
Look, I can't say, Anthony, look, I think it's fair to say that, it hasn't been a walk in the park, right? It's been, like I said, very challenging, and only thanks to, an amazing team that we have. And we've been around for 16 years in the same restaurant. So you become quite resilient, your business well, and when you got to react and push. And, we've been through hard times and good times. So we've been through times, up and downs. And then, look, it's not, sometimes I wake up and go, what the hell is going on here? And then, I clear my mind, and, I'm lucky that, I exercise quite a lot, so my mind is always quite sharp, and, that helps me a lot. And I just go, look, you just got to keep going and keep pushing. And, we're in the mix with everyone else. I feel a lot. I'm just saying this. I feel for the guys in Melbourne, because I know what we went through, when we first had to close down, or do the tuck away and change all that. And they went through the same thing. And then you reopen and things are starting to come back, and, and then you have to close again. So I couldn't even think about, we are thinking about it. It's in the back of our mind. We talk about, if there is another shutdown, guys, we need to be prepared this time. But to go through that again, it must be really tough for them. It must be incredibly hard. So, but we're pushing through, and like I said, we are super lucky that we're not in the city. We are in a great suburb, and they are loyal customers, and the clientele that we have. It's been so supportive, and people have been. Why I think people have been a little bit more understanding as well, because the situation is not the same. We do restricted numbers, and sometimes we can't fit everyone in, and we have to change things sometimes and all that. But people have been very, very good. It's been amazing, and our suppliers that we've known each other for so many years. We're getting through this together, which is. It's not easy, but hey, we just got to do what we got to do.
I know you've got a truffle dinner on. What's it been like putting that together? A truffle dinner during a pandemic.
So much fun. We did one. So we wanted to do a truffle dinner last week, because truffles are such an Australian product now, and it's a great produce, and Australia produces amazing truffles, and it's like any seasonal ingredient. You got to make the most of it when it's around, because in about 3 months it won't be around anymore. So to support the farmers again, we need to use truffles and eat them right now, because they'll be gone soon. So we said, why don't we do a dinner? So let's do a weeknight, and we put up a great dinner, great dishes. And so last week we did the first one, and it sold out literally like a rock concert. In 24 hours was sold out. It went crazy, and Marilyn and I are going, and some of the guys and our chef Federico saying, guys, what do we do? Like, we've got all these customers that want to come, but we can't fit them in because we can only do like 55 covers. And we said, well, let's do another one. So we're doing a pasta one tonight. And as you know, pasta and truffles, I mean,
amazing.
it goes extremely well. Yeah. So, 5 courses, all pastas, using, duck in one and rabbit in the other. And, we're using fregola as well, which is another great, Sardinian ingredient, but, just doing it simply to start with. But yeah, it's going to be exciting. And we're using truffles. I mean, look, truffles, there's so many good farmers out there, but, as you know, Tasmania probably being one of the first ones that they planted truffles, back in 2001 or whatever there was. The farm, as the older it gets, the better the truffles get. So, we got some amazing stuff out there. And it's been, from a business point of view, to be honest, it's been really good for us because, to be honest, the prices dropped a little bit. So they're a little bit more affordable because I don't think, a lot of stuff is going overseas. I think, a lot of stuff is staying in Australia. So I think the price, it's a little bit more affordable. That means that we can pass it on, obviously, a lot cheaper and make the most of it, which is such a great, like I say, such a great product. So, we need to just use more and more of it. Yeah.
Well, mate, I know we need to let you get back into the kitchen because you've got a really big night tonight, but we're so honoured to have you chat with us today on the show. Keep in touch and let us know how you go with the truffle dinner and if there's any more, actually. They sound amazing. And we'll talk soon.
Maybe you should come up.
I would love to.
Come up and we have some truffles one day. Just come up and we sit for a bowl of pasta or something like that. But it's been great for you to have me, mate, because, speaking up about what we're going through and giving me the opportunity of, telling people about what's happening out there. It's important. So thank you so much, mate.
Thanks, mate. You're a legend. This is the Deep in the Weeds podcast. I'm Anthony Huckstep. Stay tuned as we share the stories of Australia's hospo community, suppliers and producers in search of hope during this pandemic. Special thanks to executive producer Rob Locke for making this all happen. Follow us on Instagram at Deep in the Weeds Podcast or email us at podcast@deepintheweeds.com.au. Stay safe and be well.